I have been through multiple recessions and multiple crashes. And what I have found is that there's opportunities in every market, uh, and that things do bounce back. Chasing other people's clients is not a business plan. He
Mhm.
said, you have to become the kind of agent that clients want to come to instead of you chasing after them. You have to have money, no matter what, but you can also see it as a tool to make your life the way you want your life to be instead of as the goal.
I love to talk to agents who have systems, who have leverage in their business. And today I have got an amazing guest for you. Monica Rafferty has been in the business since 2006 as a commercial agent. And in my previous conversations with Monica, I got to learn a lot of really cool things that I didn't know about the commercial business and what it's been able to do for her life. And in fact, she doesn't know this yet, but I'm going to ask her about her recent trip to Rwanda that she just told me about, that I assume was supported by her success in the commercial real estate space. So, Monica, welcome to the show.
Well,
Thank
thank
you.
you, Linnea. I'm delighted to
Yeah,
be
I
here. Thank
love
you.
having you here. I know that we were able to connect on LinkedIn a little bit. So tell me, I mean, remind me, I guess, and the audience, why did you get into real estate back in 2006? Odd time to get into the business too. Odd time to get into real estate business.
Well, yeah. So it was actually, so many things in life are so serendipitous. You don't expect it at all. And both my husband and I were employed in the .com industry in Denver. And in, gosh, what year was it? 2002, I guess, the .com crash. And we both found ourselves looking for work, and we moved to Utah. And I found that my particular niche wasn't a job here. I was more of a uh, corporate headquarters kind of position in
Okay.
financial services. And I tried a few things and ended up going to a career counselor to figure out what might be a good second career for me, and ended up finding that my skill set really overlaid quite nicely with commercial real estate and the financial aspects, understanding how different businesses work, uh, lots of things like that. So that's how I ended up getting my license and getting into this job.
So back in 2006, I mean, for those of you who don't understand what happened in 2006 to about 2010, the real estate market across the nation went bananas, and basically everyone lost a ton of value overnight. And so we kind of started seeing the beginnings of that in like 2006, when the subprime loan increases started happening. Did you have any of that like fear or what am I doing when you got into the business, even though it was on the commercial side? Did you have any of that fear back then?
You know, I have been through multiple recessions and multiple crashes. And what I have found is that there's opportunities in every market, uh, and that things do bounce back. But for me, so many people left the industry after I joined it that I really had an opportunity to create a name for myself within a smaller community of agents. So that was a great benefit.
Yeah, yeah, and I think you're right. I mean, I hear people say it all the time. In fact, I'm listening to Grant Cardone's one of his books, The 10X Mentor, right now. And he talks about in there how anyone that's had any success in investing or anything, you always know there's recessions all the time and it bounces back all the time. And I hear people saying that it's never this during like recessions is probably the best time to make a big change. So you just like confirmed that for me. So thank you.
Yeah, it works for me.
Um, so tell me a little bit more about like your progression throughout the real estate space. What are some of the biggest lessons you learned along the way to help you get to where you are now? I want to get to where you are now and what real estate does for you now and what your business looks like today. But tell me how like some of the biggest lessons you've learned over the last 20 years almost.
Yeah. Well, so I think the biggest lesson that I learned is that you have to make your own path. You have to be true to who you are. And one of the very common strategies when people get into commercial real estate, first of all, every business has to have an agent pretty much. And
Mhm.
so you call a lot of businesses. And I had a really great broker tell me, and he wasn't my broker, but we met and he knew I was new in the business. And he said, chasing other people's clients is not a business plan. He
Mhm.
said, you have to become the kind of agent that clients want to come to instead of you chasing after them. And he said, you have the capability, figure out what you want and go after it. And it was really the best advice of all. Um, but I would say, just the idea, particularly in a midlife career change, uh, gaining the expertise to have the credibility, recognizing that that doesn't just come free. That there was going to be a period of time where I really wasn't going to make any money. And I was incredibly fortunate that someone in the business took me on as an intern, which, world oldest intern, there's movies like that now. But that's exactly what I was and what I did. And I also went after credentials like CCIM, which is a commercial real estate credential, and joined organizations in order to make it realistic for people to want to choose me. I can't just go in and say, "Hey, I'm nice." I have to be good at what I'm doing.
Yeah, it's so true. I laugh only because, like, you're so right. Your analogy of, "I can't just go in and say, 'Hey, I'm nice. This is why you hire me.'" Like like, it's funny because I talk to real estate agents all the time, and, I work mostly on the residential side. I work with, real estate agents who are trying to scale to the next level. And typically, they're agents who have, they've got 5-ish years in the business, 5 to 10 years in the business, and they're like their next step is to hit that seven-figure mark, or some of them, and their next step is to scale out of the business. Um, but the one thing that's common that I have found in most of them is when I ask, "What is your unique value proposition? What makes you unique?" The answer I get is, "Oh, I treat my customers really well. I treat my clients really well." Right? And I think it's just interesting because that kinda goes along with you can't just go in and say, "Hey, I'm nice." Like, "Hey, I'm gonna treat you well." Like, "Of course you are. Of course you are. I'm paying you. Of course you're gonna treat me well," right? So I think that your process of getting mentorship, and getting credentials, educating yourself. I think that is like something that's very important that unfortunately, a lot of agents just don't want to spend the money or the time on.
Well, worked out for me.
I like it. Well, worked out. Yes, you're right. It did work out for you. Um, so so tell me a little bit about like, your first mentor that said, I'm reading it, which is what I'm looking at right now, said chasing other people's clients is not a business plan.
Right.
So tell me a little bit about that, and then what did you do to develop that business plan?
Well, for me, it was interesting because I'd never been in any kind of a sales capacity. I had been in a corporate position. And
Mhm.
so, one of the things that's just part of the natural progression in commercial real estate is that senior agents have you cold call. And maybe you'll get a little piece of something if you land something. And so it wasn't unique to me. It's really how everybody gets started. And, you hear funny stories. Some of the very best agents were given a phone and a phone book back when there were phone books, and good luck. Um, but as I say, my journey has been filled with very wise people who cared enough to give me direction. And so when this particular person, Vasilios Priskos, decided to give me a little piece of advice, it actually matched exactly with how I would have done it had it been a business in the corporate world instead of
Oh,
this business,
I love it.
which is look at the market, identify an underserved aspect or an underserved need, and fulfill it. Don't just try to be another McDonald's, because there already is one.
Right.
And so that was great because it made me step back and take more of a strategic approach to how I wanted to develop my career. At the same time that I was still supporting and relying on senior agents who had done a lot of things right, many, many things right.
Yeah, it's what I'm hearing you say in my words is, learn, implement what you learn, but don't be afraid to put your own spin on it. Don't be afraid to be yourself in what you're learning, right? Take that knowledge and go with it, right? Like that's what I'm hearing. Is that what you're saying?
I don't think there's any other way to succeed. Honestly, if you are doing something that you don't feel good about what you're doing because it matches who you are, maybe it's time to take a look and see if there's something else that's a better fit. That would be my perspective.
Mhm, mhm. You sound like we sound like we talk to each other all the time. I feel like you're saying the same thing.
Well, I did look at a couple of your in preparing for
Yeah,
this in some of your other presentations and podcasts,
yeah.
and thought it was fabulous.
Well,
So
thank you, thank you.
shout out.
So that's why, because I'm like, I feel like you're saying some of the stuff I say. I love it. I mean, I think it. I also think you're saying it because you actually believe it. I don't think you're just saying it to
Oh
say
yeah,
it. But yeah,
for sure.
speaking of finding that fit for you that you were speaking of, um, one thing that I really remember from our first conversation was you talking about your kind of work in with nonprofit. And so I'd love to know more about that niche within your business.
Well, I it's funny because, I don't have the right family to be a philanthropist. Didn't come from the right background, but I have always really, um, loved knowing about ways to give back to
Mhm,
society. And so going back to me taking a strategic look at who in the market was making the most money in different sectors, there wasn't really a particular person who was known for their work with nonprofit organizations, and it aligned with me personally to go after that. And so I have a little funny anecdote because when I was brand new, I was very hungry, as all new agents are,
mhm,
and I had heard that an old office building was being torn down. So I hopped in my car and I drove over and I introduced myself to everybody in the building because they all had to move. And I ended up representing a really small nonprofit organization in the basement. So they were in the cheapest space of one of the cheapest buildings in town. And I mean, it was just terrible. And through the course of representing them, I figured out why they were in such cheap space and some strategies to help give them more leverage with a landlord. And they ended up going into a building on a second floor with an incredible mountain view really designed very specifically for the clients that they serve and their comfort and their business flow, and they spent less money. And they were so happy
Love
that
that.
they sent me flowers with a card signed by everybody in the office.
Oh, I love
And
that.
that was just that was one of the first commissions that I earned by myself,
Okay.
and it just felt great, and I thought, "Ah, I think I wanna do more of this."
Yeah. I'm when you said that, I felt it. I felt it. So, great job. Great job on that storytelling. And it is a reminder of, for someone like me who's so into the residential side of things, it's a reminder of, like, how every single aspect of this industry can change people's lives.
Oh, yes.
It doesn't matter if it's on the commercial side or the residential side, right? I think that little anecdote was really helpful, hopefully for my audience too, to see, like, you changed the way someone was able to operate their business, right? Because
Yes.
someone was able to operate their business, and with that, it's gonna change the way they operate their life.
Right.
So that's super powerful. Where did you find that client?
Oh, I went there.
You just
I just
cold door knocked?
Yeah, I literally walked in the door and said, "Hey, I heard they're tearing your building down. Do you have a plan? Is there something I might be able to help you with?" And they were
Oh,
like, "We don't have a plan.
I
Thank
love
you
that.
for coming."
Oh my gosh, that's such a good story of just taking advantage of an opportunity
Yes.
and asking
Definitely.
for the business. Like, so many lessons in that little tiny story. Everyone, did you hear what she said? She said she was able to change their life because she changed the way they operated their business. Um, she saw that the building was closing down, so she just said, "Okay, I'm just gonna walk in and ask a simple question. Do you have a plan?" Do you have a plan? And I think, like, so often we're taught, like, have your marketing pitch, have your elevator pitch, have this whole my unique value proposition. Even I said it a minute ago. But your question was so simple. It was so simple. Do you have a plan? And look what happened.
Yeah.
Like, sometimes, do you think sometimes advice is overcomplicated?
Oh, yes. I have to say I am such a fan of, like, these little sayings that other people have said that I repeat to myself. Something that I repeat all the time is Wayne Gretzky, and he said, "I know I'm gonna miss 100% of the shots I don't take."
I didn't know he said that, but I know the saying. I didn't know that that was him that said it though.
And it's true.
Mhm.
What was the worst thing that could have happened to me? I got out of the office and knocked on some doors, and everybody could have said no. Well, okay.
Did you die? Like, I go back to
Well,
my
not
my
only that, I didn't have any business anyway. I was brand new.
You're like, "I didn't have any." I always whenever I do it, I go back to the saying of, the movie The Hangover, when he's like, "But did you die?" Like, that's what I
Oh,
ask
yeah.
people all the time. I'm like, "But did
Yes.
you die?" "No, you didn't. You're still here, and we're talking about it." But you're right, you didn't so what? You didn't have any business. What do you have to lose?
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
And for me, um, I think that if you're good at what you're doing, and if you're treating it like a business and not like a hobby,
Mhm.
um, things do come, but you can't forget the service aspect
Yes.
because, you said that earlier that people bring that up over and over. I think it's remarkable the number of times that I will hear from somebody, "You're the only agent that called me back."
Yes! Isn't that crazy? Isn't that crazy?
Yes. Yes.
I'm just like, really? Like, I
Yeah.
had an agent. I just closed a transaction from someone who said, "I have tried so hard to get anyone to call me back, but no one even wants to call me back."
Right.
And I'm like, "I don't understand why." Is it just that they're too
Well,
busy? Is it not a big enough deal for them? Or it's just a hobby, so it doesn't actually matter? I don't know.
yeah. I don't either, but I do know that, again, in my background and why I think this is just such a perfect landing spot for me. there was no such thing as not calling people back. I mean, you had corporate accountability, and you had to get the right answer. And if you didn't know it, you had to look it up and call them back. And I think all of those things that built my foundation have served me incredibly well in this career.
So my corporate background, I worked for a large department store. And so it started out with, sales, like learning how to sell. And I like to credit my ability to retain a client to that particular piece of my career because
Me,
because like I used to I worked in a beauty department and I would have people come in and they'd look for like a $25 mascara. And my favorite thing was when they didn't realize that this $25 mascara is only as good as all the other tools that you put with the $25 mascara, right? Because they see it on TV. You see this beautiful mascara on TV and it's like, "Oh, I just want that one piece." You think that's the Let's simplify it, right? That's the one piece they want. And then you learn throughout conversation, no, you actually have a bigger problem. And so they would sit down in my chair and I would put this whole system together for them in just a short period of time. They would walk out feeling like $1 million. Right. And so that's kind of how that's where I really credit my ability to service my clients and help them see the simple things to that particular role.
well, and I have an observation of that story,
Okay.
which is that you closed it by saying they walked out feeling like $1 million.
Mhm.
Not say they walked out buying a bunch of products.
Mhm.
And I think that's crucial. People are real people. They're not a commission.
Right.
And I think the minute you start feeling like they're a commission and not a person with a need, whether it's a need to, have long eyelashes or a need to get out of a basement of a building, you just fulfill needs. And as I say, for me, I have found that um the money follows. Now, obviously, I could be a volunteer, and I don't volunteer any of my time. All of my contracts require me to get paid if there's a transaction, regardless.
Mhm.
If somebody donates a building to them, I get paid because it was my work that created that value. And on occasion, I will have an organization say, "Well, will you waive your commission?" And I'll be like, "Well, are you working here for free? Because I have a family to feed." I can't do that. But what I can do is I can help you to get the very most out of your budget and
Mhm.
the very most that you want from your wish list, and for the same price as you would pay anybody else. And so
Okay, I have an observation about that. I got really excited. Um, when you said, "I can't do that, but what I can do is this," right? The thing that I think we kind of forget in sales all the time, people are so afraid to say that we're in sales, but I'm like, sales is fulfilling an emotional need. That's what it is. It's fulfilling. Yesterday, I talked to someone. She told me about her experience buying a vehicle, and like, I asked her why she bought it. She said, well, at the time, she was desperate, and it was the best vehicle that fit her needs at that time. And I was like, that is exactly what sales is all about, filling
yeah,
whatever that emotional need is at the time. And so what you had said was you gave them an option. And I think a lot of times, especially when it comes to the commission conversation, since we're there, let's talk about it. People are so afraid to say they're always. I've noticed, at least on this side, I've noticed a lot of people are just like, okay, yeah, fine, we'll just discount it. But it's like, this is a business. This is how I'm putting food on my table. So I think you just had a really good objection handling script for those of you who are looking for an objection handling script. No, but I can do this. And it had nothing to do with giving them money. It had everything to do with providing them the value that you already provide them and reminding them of the value that you provide them. So,
thank you.
yeah, just an
Yeah.
observation. I think, like,
No, I believe that's true.
yeah, yeah. And I think, I love to talk to more commercial agents, like I said, because I'm so into this residential side of things that I like to hear the parallels between what we do because we're in the same industry. Our product is a little bit different.
Well, and so you said something earlier, and you've been talking about bringing the value. And I had a person in my life, and if it's okay, I'll say her name, Susan Poulin, who, after I was divorced and really struggling, walked me through the steps to buy a house by myself
Mhm.
and stuck with me. And she certainly didn't make a lot of money overnight, but she helped change my life. And I've referred her a fair amount of business through the years. And, that's another thing. Just because somebody's small, that doesn't mean they're not worth working with. First of all, you get the good feeling of helping them. And second of all, everybody knows somebody, right?
Everybody knows somebody. Everybody knows somebody. I don't know if I told you this, but, so recently I just had a commercial agent come and speak to my group of agents because I always like to bring people on to share if they have knowledge they wanna share. And one of the tips that he gave, and I'd be curious what your thoughts are on this. One of the tips he gave was like to go through your database as a real estate agent, go through your database and just ask them. I'm sure this could work for both sides. Ask them if they have any commercial needs. Like, just send out like an email and just say, "Hey, do you have any commercial needs?" Because the reality is you can refer that business out to a commercial specialist, right? So I don't know what are your kind of ideas for that? Like his whole point was to like help them generate business from their database that might not be buying or selling a house.
Absolutely. First of all, I am, maybe a little older than a lot of the people in your demographic, so I don't necessarily rely on the technological
Uh-huh.
aspects.
Mhm.
But one thing I do is I send holiday cards every year, and I
Okay.
start working on them in about October
Okay.
because I hand address them and I put a note in each one, um, and say, try to reconnect. And, I get a lot of referrals, and I think it's for me, it's not as technically, uh, uh, associated with, a database, but it is my database. It's
Mhm.
all of my clients, and it's all the people who help me in my business, and some of them are lenders or appraisers or contractors or, you name it, people that I've served on committees with and organizations. And I feel like, so for my kids, being reached out electronically would be a really personal feeling touch. So I feel like it's
Mhm.
great advice. For me, I'm a little bit more old school, and so are the most of the people I talk to. So it is the same thing in a different sort of
Yep.
mechanism.
Yep.
But yes, reaching out, reminding them who I am, reminding I'm here if you need anything. Another thing I like to do is, particularly because of my niche in nonprofits, is sometimes there'll be a piece of news regarding funding. And for example, right now, Medicare has cut down part of what they're willing to reimburse for a certain kind of autism education for
Mhm.
children.
Okay.
And I have several clients who deal in that universe. And so I'll just pass it along and just say, you probably already saw this, but it made me think that, it might impact your budget. And the thing is, whether it impacts it positively or negatively, you're thinking about what to do about it.
Mhm.
Let me know if I can help.
Yeah. So true. So true. And I think like, you know, we forget that I mean, you said it, like, I've sent residential business, I've referred residential business, right? And it's the same
Oh,
thing,
yeah,
like, residential agents could re can re or residential agents can refer commercial business too. I mean, there's
for sure.
and I think that sometimes people get siloed in their own space thinking, "This is my client, I only work with sellers of houses," and I'm like, like, yeah, but you also wanna make sure you don't only work with sellers of houses. You wanna make sure that you also like help those same people who already like you, help them with the rest of their life because it just keeps that relationship going. If that's what I like to call multiplication and raving fans, like that's how you do that is keeping them connected as being their one source or their source for changing their life. Yeah, I love it. Okay, so talk to me a little bit about like today. So, you've been in the business 20 years. You've had a lot of success. You have a really awesome niche inside the nonprofit space. You just went to Rwanda last year. So tell me a little bit more about, where are you at today? What's next for Monica? What's next in your career?
Well, I had an economics professor
Okay.
that had a big impact on me because he was brilliant and he was working on one of Morgan Stanley's indices for, uh, you know, the market value in third world countries, I think. But this was in San Diego at USD, and he was an economics professor. And he told us one day that he had the same income as the same somebody with the same qualifications
Hmm.
on Wall Street who is a
Okay.
trader. He said, I just choose to take my income in family time and surfing. And when you realize that money doesn't equal success, it's certainly a component. You have to have money, no matter what, but you can also see it as a tool to make your life the way you want your life to be instead of as the goal.
Yeah.
And so I always think about that because one of the things that this job has afforded me is the ability to turn the tap higher and turn it lower depending on where I am. When my kids needed me more, I could step back a little bit. And then when they didn't need me at all because I went to college, I could rev it up and do a lot of business. And so where I am right now is in a place where I'll never retire. Why would I ever
No,
retire?
no. Retirement sounds
And
horrible. I don't ever want to retire.
yes, but I am doing less prospecting for new business
Okay.
and doing more travel. I have, established I've done conference calls where I set my alarm for 1 a.m. and stepped into the hall so that I didn't wake anybody up. And I have the conference call and I have my computer and I can do my job from anywhere. So I still don't take the kind of vacation where you actually don't work, but I have reduced the pressure on myself so that
Love
I
it.
can enjoy some of the things that I prepared for in the past.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's the best description of success that I've heard on on this show so far is using money to support the way I want to live versus feeling like I have to have the money to live.
Right.
Yeah. I
Right.
think that's the best version I've heard. Best story I've heard of success so far.
And, I
Mhm.
will say one thing because I've seen a lot of agents come and go and
Mhm.
a lot of young agents who have the idea after they make their first commission that the next one will be easy. And it's never easy.
Mm.
I don't think it ever gets easy.
No.
And one just like a basic piece of advice is don't spend money you don't have. And I see that happen. And to young agents who, they get that first commission, they go buy a new car, and then next thing they haven't paid their taxes, and next thing they're delivering pizzas on the side. And
Yeah.
so that's that's a common thing to fall into, particularly in an industry like this where people want to have their possessions seen as an indicator of their success.
Yeah.
And so it's really important to drive that really expensive looking car so people will think you're a good agent. And, there has to be a balance. You have to actually be taking care of yourself
Yeah.
first.
Yeah. I like to tell people, one of the things I do when I work with my clients is the very first one of the very first homework assignments I give them is to audit their expenses. I actually look at their P&L statement for the last year and I'm like, and I will ask questions about like, what is this? What is this? What is this? What is this? And it's fascinating to me how many people, agents I see spending money on things that don't actually help their business grow. Like
Like what?
I see people spending so much money on all the different, like, software, all the different
Oh,
tools, all the different AI, and it's I don't see a lot, of or the same sort of money put aside for saving, for, actually, like, paying themselves. Like, I see money just being poured back into business, just, like, sometimes on random stuff or on marketing that they're not quite ready for. Right? I've seen the worst I ever saw was someone who actually had spent all of her paychecks. She had like 3 paychecks, and it was spent on grocery carts, billboards, like all the stuff that was just like, yes, long-term branding, but you've only had 3 deals. You still don't have that brand built to be able to know what to you know what I'm trying to say? Like,
yes, I
yeah,
do.
yeah.
And it kind of goes back to, form over substance. You have to be the person that you're advertising before you can advertise.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, I mean, there is something to be said about the adage of success that says, act or dress for the job you want, not the job you have.
Oh,
There's something to
yes.
be said for that. But like every lesson or every cliche that we learn in business always has to be taken in context for where you're at in that time of life right now. So
Yes.
it's interesting. Anyway, okay, so we are almost at the end of our time. So just curious if you could give any advice to someone who is, 20 years in the business now. We're gonna done growing your business. You've built it, you've grown it. What's your advice for that 20-year veteran who there are a lot of them who actually listen? So my demographic is 75% women right now. What I see on YouTube is 75% women, ages 55 and older. So at that point, most of them have been in the business for, well, depending on where they're at, it's usually a second or third career. And so, advice would you give to that 20-year veteran who's kind of wondering, like, what's next for me? What do I do next in my career? What would you tell them?
I would say, and remember, I come from a strategic
Yep.
planning background.
Yep.
I have actually very specific advice, which is that very small changes can make a very big difference. You don't need to turn your life upside down. I did it because I had to. I moved to a new place and couldn't get a job. But my recommendation, if you're looking for more fulfillment and you don't want to throw away everything you've built, is to make a list of everybody you've ever worked with. And that includes clients and lenders and advertisers, and see which ones make you smile when you put their name down. It's a real thing. You'll say, "Oh, yeah, I
Yeah.
loved that. I loved
Yep.
working with him." And then try to remember the transaction or the situation. And so maybe you'll find that you always smile when you were helping young couples buy their first house, or you always smile when you remember a certain neighborhood, or and so that can show you the patterns of what makes you happy in your career, and then just do more of that and less of the other stuff. And it's just a little shift, but it can make a huge difference.
I am just smiling because that is exactly the advice that I give to people. That is
Well,
exactly
that's funny.
that's exactly what I tell people when they're, because usually when they're coming to me, they, like I said, they've had about 5 years in the business and they're kind of in that burnout mode, like, "What do I do now?" And I'm like, "You gotta do the Marie Kondo method of clients."
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. I literally just taught this to someone yesterday, and I have a whole exercise that I have people go through. I'll share it with you if you do wanna see it. But it's a whole exercise that I have people go through, and it's essentially the Marie Kondo method, and I teach them to build their business around that client or to have their
Yes.
business around that client, wherever you're at in your phase of life. Because really, you and I both know that our business is really reflective of where we're at in our life, right? There's
Oh,
a
yeah.
certain time, when I was fresh in the business, I got in the business when I was late 30s. But back when I was in my 20s, I did loans, right? Before corporate, I did loans. And so I was hungry in my 20s. I was like, I would do anything, right? Here I am. I'm 46 years old. I do not want to work like that anymore, right? I want to work
Mhm.
the way I want to work now. And so through each phase of those life, the people that I wanna work with kind of evolve and change. right? And so I
Absolutely.
look at it as like I do the same thing. I'm like the Marie Kondo method. I'm like, go through, and if they do not spark joy, cross their name off, right? It's so funny. I literally just had someone do this yesterday. I will share that exercise with you. I love that advice. That's fantastic
Well, thank
advice.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Awesome advice. Okay, so where can my audience find you? What kind of referrals are you looking for? Do you have a mentorship program for agents? Like a little bit about that. How can they help you?
Well, first of all, I'm happy to help anybody who wants help. Like I said, my life is the result of a lot of people helping me and, going out of their way to give me a hand. So anybody, call me about anything if you want to. I'm really easy to find. Monica Rafferty is not a common name, and I'm probably the only Monica Rafferty in Utah. And certainly the only Monica Rafferty in real estate in Utah. So you can just Google Monica Rafferty, Utah, and I'm probably who's going to come up. And all of my contact information with it. I'm with Internet Properties. And I guess as far as referrals, if you know really of a company anywhere that could benefit from having somebody like me look at their real estate situation, and I'm big on partnering up, huge on partnering up. I'd rather have half of something than all of nothing, and I always learn from other people. So if there's a situation, commercial situation where you feel like, gosh, I don't really feel comfortable in this lane, give me a buzz. I can help.
I love that. And Rafferty is spelled just the way it sounds, everyone. So Rafferty. Just sound it out. It's like phonetics, right? Like hooked on phonics worked for me. I, I think of all
Yeah.
the I think of all the stuff because Gen X, like thinking back like when we were younger, when I was younger, all the stuff that I grew up with, and one of them was hooked on phonics worked for me, and I'll never forget that. I don't know why. I just
It's good. It's good. Something, there's no one size fits all
yeah,
in life.
yeah.
Different things work for different people. So
Yep, so true. Monica, thank you so much. You have been an amazing guest. We'll have to have you back on. And I want to talk to you a little bit more about your commercial side. So, everyone, thanks for tuning in. And if you have questions, reach out to Monica. She's awesome. You're going to love talking to her, just like I have. And it's been a great, great time on the show today.
well, Linnea, thank you for this opportunity very much. I've had just a wonderful time.
Awesome.